Good evening. We feel very happy to be with you on this lovely Friday evening that is very windy, by the way. And as we promised last week, we have the second part of the show of What's Up with the Star Wars. And today the discussion is going to be focused on all the novelties of this new episode of Star Wars Episode 9. And our guest, Dr. Juan Daniel Machín Mastromateo, welcome.
Good night, glad to be back.
And also Professor of History at the Faculty of Philosophy, Angel Sánchez Valdez-Hanson.
Hi, good evening.
Thank you for being with us, joining the show. Well, everybody is so restless about hearing what's going on with the news. And before that we go into the topic, last week we were having a great explanation about the analysis of the characters, the legends, the canons, and all the episodes of Star Wars. So just to retake what we start the conversation last week, please tell us what is the difference between the canon and the legend, and what's the relationship between these two connections of the story.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you for having us again. It's a pleasure to be here, and hope you guys enjoy the show. The last session we discussed at the very first beginning of the show what was the terminology, and the first one was the word canon. When it comes to Star Wars canon, is related to the fictional material that is considered a part of and consistent with the main universe of Star Wars, the foundation universe, as we might call it. There are the 6 movies, actually the 7th and the 8th, and from there other works like TV shows, books, comics that have become canon to the specifically canon universe.
Okay, well, having that on mind, we can now distinguish and understand the appearance of all the characters and how the episodes are going released, so the public can be involved and familiar with the story and understand this mysticism about the story of Star Wars. Professor Juan Daniel, now that you mentioned that we have these two magnificent news about the Star Wars, we are excited to know about what is going to happen in Episode 9. And you mentioned 2 important things that are coming soon about Star Wars.
Yes, there are 2 important things to discuss. And just before that, past show, I said that Star Wars video games were all Legends materials, but that's not exactly true. There is one video game, the last one, that is Battlefront 2, the EA's Battlefront 2, the recent one, because there are 2 Battlefronts 2. One is canon and the other one is Legends, right? So in Battlefront 2, there is a single-player campaign that follows a story where the Emperor left behind a plan to destroy Republic worlds after his death. Yeah? And in the video game, you are trying to stop that operation. It's Operation Cinder. So that aside, that is related to our first news related to Star Wars. That was the unveiling of a new video game, also made by EA, Electronic Arts, that is called Jedi Fallen Order. And it follows, it's a canon story, of course, and it follows a young Padawan, a young Jedi apprentice, and his master after the moment that Order 66 took place. If we remember Episode 3, Order 66 is the order that Palpatine gives to the clones to kill all the Jedi. So this Padawan and his master, they run away from Order 66 and they try to hide from the Empire. And we will have that video game. We don't know much more about that.
Okay, so we have also these new video games coming on soon.
Yeah, and the teaser image for the video game is a broken lightsaber over some ancient Jedi runes. You want to speculate about it?
Let's just say that it's very significant because it has this kyber crystal that it's really, really important. When we go later on the show, we will go through this information when it comes for the light side and the dark side. The different colors, there's a specific information regarding that, and gives a different, not just the color itself, but also the wielding power, that it's different in those cases.
And kyber crystals are the crystals that power lightsabers, for anyone not following so closely Star Wars, and also they power the super weapon, the Death Star.
Okay, so that means that we are going to see more sophisticated effects and how they handle and how they deal with the weapons and the power and the effect that the new weapon has on these characters. Do you think they really empower the characters if they are using this kind of materials?
Or maybe it's symbolic of the way the game will be played, that if the lightsaber is broken, perhaps it will be centered on force powers and stealth, and not so much about lightsaber combat.
And that's one of the main reasons that there's a difference between the Jedi Order, the abilities, and the Sith. Depending on, one is for healing, for in case of the Jedi, and in the case of the Sith, it's for aggressiveness, power, electroshocks, strangling, other different possibilities.
Yeah, let's remember that the Jedi strive to protect and avoid the combat at all costs, while the Sith, they only crave power.
Okay, so that means that we are facing him like a confrontation between what is a code of honor, where you use certain kind of weapons that are, used for the good, even if it's a weapon, and the other more dramatic or drastic, radical, aggressive weapons that are on the counterpart. That it is all the time like the main reason for the confrontation.
Obi-Wan Kenobi during Episode 4, Star Wars: A New Hope, tells Luke Skywalker, when he handles the lightsaber that his father had, Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, it says, "What is this?" asks Luke, and he says, "That's a lightsaber. It was a weapon from a more civilized time." So Obi-Wan Kenobi makes this reference to the Old Republic, about the way democracy used to work, not the empire that has a whole different organization.
Right, and with these different organizations, the philosophy of the canon and the legends are also taken into consideration, right?
Mm-hmm.
How they are going to confront the characters and what's the idealism to fight for. Well, there's a whole thing, many important things go on in these video games. It's not only the effects of lights, no, right? It's everything that is behind what you have to read under the line, between lines.
And it's completely uncharted territory for canon, because we don't know what happened just after Order 66 and with the remaining Jedi apart from Obi-Wan and Yoda.
Okay, just this question just came up to my mind. People, when are very familiar, they know the canon, they know the legend, they are they have watched all the episodes, and when they start playing these video games with all this mysticism, do they really feel that they are playing like a Jedi, or they are playing like the Sith, and they take parts and they want to master the skills in the game because precisely they identify with one of the characters of the story?
Yes, absolutely, and I feel that we need a Darth Vader only video game, just focused on Darth Vader, because I remember when I first played The Force Unleashed, that it was the first video game when you were completely a Jedi, overpowered Jedi. But there are also other games where Force powers are very well represented.
All right, so that explains why people get so passionate about playing a video game, and they can spend hours, days, the whole night playing it. And the more they play, the more that they want to go on.
There's even those games are like The Force Unleashed, The Force Unleashed 2. There are the single player and multiplayer. You can go through the whole story line game, or you can play with your friends, being a Jedi or a Darth Sith. So that's very interesting. But for example, there's a game for computer that it's called Knights of the Old Republic, and this game is very interesting. It has so many features because you can choose from up to your lightsaber, the hilt, the crystals that you're using. You can choose your wardrobe or your appearance. It's very, very, very interesting. It's I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Everything is symbolic.
Yeah, and Knights of the Old Republic is the most acclaimed Star Wars video game, and the makers of Knights of the Old Republic went down to history also by making Mass Effect. That is also a very popular galactic video game.
All right, so we still have these special effects, the light that empowers, and that was that make you believe that you really can defeat with the. I mean, the light represents love. You know, this code of the well-being.
Sure.
Peace.
That's why the
novelty.
Jedi are identified with the light side of the Force, while the Sith are identified with the dark side. Yeah.
The evil.
But as they say, a candle makes a shadow. So
Further
we
to
have
be-
the light and the dark at the same time.
And here's the catch. There's not only normally we just relate to the light side of the Force or the dark side, but there's also this other part that's called the gray side of the Force. It's the gray area, and we will discuss this later. But I think it's very important for us to acknowledge that what is the philosophical approach on the light and the dark side? Well, in the story itself, it says that the light side of the Force, also known as the Ashla, that's the name.
That they give to this zone.
Yes, exactly. On the story itself, was an aspect of the Force. The light side, it's always aligned with calmness. It's tranquility and compassion, selflessness, and unconditional love for all living creatures. In order to acquire some harmony and a state of benevolence in practitioners, they are called the Jedi. And we need to remember that it's almost like going back to the scriptures and going to the. It almost feel like
Archaic
like biblical,
times.
the Old Testament. And here's the thing: of course we have the midichlorians, but we have this other part, which is the divine part, that it's called the wills. And these wills are the ones that I don't want to say produce the midichlorians or elaborate the midichlorians, but they influence the Force in such a way that the midichlorians are possible. And here's a very interesting approach that Luke has made for these midichlorians. They are based on a specific part of the cell, the human cell or animal cells, which is called the mitochondria. The mitochondria are the cells that we have in our body, and according to biological research, it tells us that this mitochondria, it was not part of our body at the beginning. It was a symbiosis that took place, and therefore we were able to sustain an evolution, so we can adapt this organism within our body and to be a part of our body. So this situation, it's taking under consideration on the story itself.
That explains the whole thing, how life and the relationships are, netted among each other. Well, that's very interesting. It's very deep. If you just start analyzing every issue, every time you find new elements to go deeper in this analysis. Excellent. Well, on one hand, this is one of the news about the Star Wars, these new video games with a lot of things to understand and get involved. And what's the other good news?
The other big news is that we had today the first teaser trailer for Episode 9, that is called The Rise of Skywalker. So, spoiler alert, if you don't want to get your trailer spoiled, we are going to go deep into it. I will just comment perhaps some scenes, and perhaps Angel can comment and help me to discuss it.
Of course, I mean,
make some theories
if
about it.
if the trailer is available in the internet,
Yes,
you can watch
YouTube.
it
Yeah.
in YouTube. Okay, so the trailer is ready there for you to see it. You can check it in YouTube. And what is exciting about the trailer?
Well, first we are on a desert planet, and I don't know if it's Tatooine, if it's Jakku, where there was the last battle with the Empire.
Some say it's Jakku.
Yeah,
That's
perhaps
a theory.
because
theory.
it's more iconic for the sequel trilogy than Tatooine, right? But Rey is running on this desert planet, and suddenly Kylo Ren's TIE fighter appears. Well, I think it's Kylo Ren, and she jumps over the ship.
Lightsaber on.
Lightsaber on, yeah. And the trailer just cuts into black at the moment of collision between Rey and the ship. And that's...
So something big is coming up
Yeah,
with the collision.
Well, the first thing that we need to notice is that Rey, she already mastered some Jedi skills. She was able to light on the lightsaber, focus her mind, and you see that she starts running full speed, and then the TIE fighter is coming on her back, pushing, and then suddenly she jumps, backflips, and that's when the scene gets cut.
Mhm.
But we can interpret that she has more skills, she has more deeper knowledge of the Force, so that's very interesting from starters.
Yeah, and there's a voiceover of Luke at the moment saying, "We've passed on all we know," and it's interesting that he used the "we" as in all the Jedi Order at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
Sure. No, that means that all the physical abilities that are performed in this episode also tries to portray the dominion of the mind over the body, the will, and the things that you have to master in order to become a good one.
And she could master with this movement, she could master a very advanced technique from the Old Republic. We will be speaking about fighting styles afterwards, but that is some pretty advanced techniques for a new Jedi.
And these fighting techniques are related to the new video game of Star Wars. It is some kind based on what is going to happen on Episode 9, or is a surprise? We cannot know.
No, they are stories that are apart by at least 25 years or something.
30.
Yeah, 30, 35, something like that. They are separate stories completely, but those are techniques that I don't think that Luke had the chance to teach her. So
the mystery or the secret is to find out how did she get that?
how did she
Exactly.
learn
Uh-huh.
to fight with such acrobatics? That is a very particular fighting style. Well, then we have a shot of Lando Calrissian with Chewbacca in the Millennium Falcon. Everything Millennium Falcon related has us mad with enjoyment.
How would you describe the character of Chewbacca? Because this big creature, it is like the balance or like the big bodyguard. I mean, what was the role of Chewbacca?
And we don't understand anything Chewbacca says, but everyone in the movies does.
That's what's really amazing. The Chewbacca character is from a planet called Kashyyyk, and all the fans, they know all that information. It's a planet that has a very powerful light side of the Force, Nexus and energy. So that's why Jedis used to go there to train and be in touch to get calm, because it's a planet associated with light.
Like the equilibrium for all of them?
Sure. And here's the thing. There are stories when they tell you how Chewbacca met Han Solo. Actually, there's a movie called Solo, a Star Wars story that kind of tells you how Han Solo met Chewbacca, his smuggler beginnings. A lot of fans didn't like the movie.
I did. It's not bad.
It's questionable. I mean, we can go through there on another time. But the thing is that Chewbacca is his buddy. He's not just his bodyguard, his friend, his co-pilot. Let's not forget that the Millennium Falcon itself made the castle run in less than 12 parsecs.
He's the mechanic of the Millennium Falcon.
Exactly.
Yeah, and well, Chewbacca is a very, very good character, and well,
It adds certain humor to the story, right?
yeah,
It's
sure.
very ironically, so everything like when something really bad is about to happen, everybody turns to Chewbacca and expects his reaction
It's
to be
one-
the saber.
One of the characters that gives us that classic Star Wars comic relief, as well as C-3PO and R2 and BB-8 in the sequel trilogy.
Don't include the infamous.
No, we are not going there. Then there's a shot of Leia with a medal that I thought, oh, that looks like one of the Episode 4's medals, perhaps Luke's medal or Han's medal.
The one that they received when they blew up the Death Star, when they came back, Princess Leia, and in front of the whole rebellion forces, gave them to Han and to Luke that medal that Professor Anil is talking about.
And something that is very unfair is that Chewbacca didn't get a medal, and he totally deserved it.
Completely, and they're in all the Star Wars forums. They say, "Why didn't Chewbacca get any
reward.
any medal?" I mean,
Uh-huh.
because
George Lucas should have fixed that in the special editions and just put a computer-generated medal over Chewbacca, right?
Well,
They-
that's a pity.
Yeah.
Well,
Why is he less than anyone else?
Well, that teaches that life is not always fair.
Yeah, that's because he's the mechanic.
and especially when he's 6'4" or 6'5",
Mhm.
6'3" maybe.
Well,
He's very, very tall.
yeah. Perhaps it was because Leia couldn't get to put the medal on.
Maybe. Gonna get a ladder.
Yeah, get a ladder to give.
Probably in a future episode, we will see the justice for Chewbacca.
In the special edition Disney director's cut. Okay,
Alright.
and then we have two very big things in the trailer at the end. We have the perspective of C, and we have our new heroes. We have Rey and Poe and Finn walking towards the sea. And what do we see over the sea? It's there are the ruins of the Death Star sinking on the sea, and the sea is all stormy and messed up. And in the voiceover, the ghost of Luke says that no one's really ever gone, and it fades to black, and we have the laughter of Palpatine.
Oh my God, that's a very melancholic scene.
Yeah.
It's dramatic because it's Emperor Palpatine. For all the fans know the story, but for all the ones that they're not quite familiar with the story,
Spoiler.
spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! On the Episode 6, Return of the Jedi, Darth Vader rises Palpatine above his head and throws him into one of these energy pits, and he gets dismembered and turns into energy.
And then the star explodes.
Exactly. So you hear the creepy, scary laughter of the Emperor. So it's.
We come back with some speculations after the cut.
Of course, and there's a lot of symbolism of, all the mixed feelings and all the things that can be discussed and analyzed through this scene. Folks, we are talking about Star Wars. What's up? And the two big news about Episode 9, and we continue having a deep analysis of the characters and the situations in the scenes. We are broadcasting live tonight. If you like to call 439-1841 at Radio Universidad Radio Cabin Station, Ildefonso Villegas. Please stay tuned. We'll be back very soon. Thank you for staying tuned. Tips, talk, and topics discussing Star Wars. What's up with the two big news about this new episode? And Juan Daniel and Angel Sánchez, I know that we are very passionate about discussing about what happened in this special Star Wars celebration, like these summits that are taking place in different cities of in the United States. And well, we have to talk about the Jedi. We have to talk about what is happening in the last scenes of this trailer that is available for the public. But I mean, what would you like to talk about first? Just to finish the scene of the trailer, and then we go with the celebration of Star Wars.
Yeah, let's finish about the trailer. And in the last part of the trailer, we have the ruins of the Death Star, and we hear Palpatine's laughter. And in the celebration event, after showing the teaser trailer, moments after that, Ian McDiarmid, that is the actor who played Palpatine originally in all the episodes that the character appears, he appears on stage and says, "Roll it again," with the voice of Palpatine, and that got us very, very excited. Does it mean that Palpatine is going to return? But he's dead, so we will see spiritual fight between Jedi and Sith, Luke Skywalker's ghost versus Palpatine ghost. What do you think?
We can speculate about is he going to appear in the episode again? Or probably the dark side is going to roll over this character.
Definitely, J.J. Abrams is a genius in some ways.
Creating
the
mood.
the some stories, some interconnections. He's very good at it. Some fans don't like it at all, but some consider him that he's doing a good job. And with the latter, I think he's doing a good job with what he's demanded to do. He doesn't have that liberty, for example, that freedom to choose different scenarios.
Expectation is just too large.
Exactly. He's very limited. But the thing is, here's the thing. When it comes to the Force, and the light side has this power, this ability to transcend, and to when the Jedis die and they master this ability, the only ones that are known to master this ability is Master Yoda, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Anakin Skywalker, and in a different way but similar, Qui-Gon Jinn, which was the master of Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Anakin itself as a little kid. But they were able to take a human form, an energy human form, to talk to the people that are still alive
and retain their original consciousness.
Their consciousness. There's a very interesting part of the word. Consciousness. It's very interesting because what makes us us? Your voice, your body. Your body changes every 7 years with your cells changing. Your voice changes as long as you're getting older. So the consciousness is the only thing, the only part that stays the same, and that's the one that transcends in the Force.
And the Sith don't have that power, not precisely, but legends, stories tells us that, for instance, Exar Kun could make his consciousness remain in a Sith temple in Yavin 4. So perhaps we have the same principle applied to canon in the case of Palpatine, that he was able to remain within the Death Star's ruins. So that is creating a dark side nexus that our heroes are going to destroy in Episode 9.
And there are planets that they have, like Professor said before, that are connected with the light side and the dark side. For example, episode 5, the Empire Strikes Back, Obi-Wan appears to Luke, or semi-conscious Luke, and he tells him to go to the Dagobah system to meet with Yoda. And this planet itself has a nexus with the dark side, and Yoda uses this planet to hide from the Dark Lord of the Sith, from the Emperor Palpatine and the Empire. He hides there because the energy is so dark that they cannot sense him.
It masks his presence.
Exactly.
Okay, well, so probably you can contribute to the screenplay with the writer, guys. That's amazing how you are explaining. And well, we have to talk about the Jedi. I mean, it is such an important character because all the loyalty, the preparations, the strugglings, emotions that they have, they represent, like a model to follow, especially for kids, like the perfect or the ideal to reach in about human beings, the nature of the good. And can you talk a little bit about the Jedi? Was the commitment of a Jedi?
Yeah, perhaps I can give opening remarks and Angel can continue.
Uh-huh.
Jedi originate, according to legends now, well, I don't know if in canon will be the same, but they originate in the planet Tython. And this planet has a very unique characteristic, is that their moon was a dark side nexus. And some Jedi that are too close to the light, they get expelled to the moon, so they experimented dark, and vice versa. If they are too exposed to the dark, they come back to the planet, to come back to the light side. So they played with these concepts at the early years of the Jedi Order. If you wish to continue.
Sure. I think that there could be said a lot of things, but I think maybe going with the Sith code and the Jedi code, maybe we can just start with the code and then start building up our explanation from there. So the Jedi code, very simple, very quick. It says, there is no emotion, there is peace. There is no ignorance, there is knowledge. There is no passion, there is serenity. There is no chaos, there is harmony. There is no death, there is the Force. So having that in mind, the Jedi Order focuses on healing, it focuses on keeping calm, on trying to get rid of emotions. For example, anger, hate, suffering, those lead
To the dark side.
The low vibrations.
Exactly. And on the other hand, we have the Sith, which goes like this. Peace is a lie. There is only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. And through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall set me free.
There's opposites in every aspect.
Yes.
So you see, the Sith code gives you the perfect reason to understand why Palpatine, his own master, Darth Plagueis the Wise, and all the other Siths from the Old Republic, they only cared about power. But power is the way to break free. And we're not talking Foucault's disciplinary societies here, but it has this component that is very interesting. There's only two of them, the master and the apprentice, when it comes from the Sith. I don't know if you want to say something about that.
Yeah, the Sith had a hard time in thousands of years ago, according to our stories, where the order was very large, because they craved power so much that they were constantly killing each other and betraying each other, until Darth Bane enforced the rule of two. That was what Angel was saying, that there's only two, only the master and the apprentice, no more, no less. And the Sith had a very different origin. They came from different parts of space, and they found the planet Korriban. And in Korriban, there were some indigenous people called the Sith. and they didn't necessarily have any particular powers, but the future Siths conquered the Sith people, and that's why they named themselves Sith Lords, because they were the lords of the people called the Sith. They were not called Sith before that.
They were their conquerors.
They were conquerors, and hence they were the Sith Lords. And then they were worshipped by the Sith, these Sith Lords. And there's a very large mausoleum in Korriban where all Sith Lords that died that go to rest in, supposedly in peace, right?
Well, this is, something that is very to consider how the human being of light has to struggle against the human nature and to have a perfect dominion of his greatness, the consciousness, and how he has to train his consciousness to get the peace that he needs in order to fight on the light side. But on the other hand, if there's no passion, it is very difficult that you can keep struggling and find the purpose of doing something. So there are two very different ways to reach victory, but how they consider what is to succeed or what is victory. If you are talking about conquering the space and conquering the human being itself through the dominion of their emotions. So if you start understanding all the things that happen on the dark side, well, it's very easy to engage with all these principles. But on the other hand, say, well, if you really can keep calm and be, with this peace in your mind, your decisions will be better, and you will be perfectly in control of the situation. But nevertheless, you cannot avoid being or feeling passionate about something. And if you act from your emotions, that is going to be very difficult that your mind is clear to make a good decision. So that's like confronting the question to be or not to be in human consciousness. I don't know if it was the intention of the authors of the story.
Lucas has very deep knowledge of mythology, and the way he created or he made the sketch for the story shows us that he has different knowledge of this mythological sagas and the situations. Let me just say that the dark side, it's very appealing because it promises you power in a short period of time, like from going from nothing to a lot in a short period of time. So that's why it's so seductive. While the light side, it's a process. It's a long process, and the very Yoda itself, the character, you see that Yoda is 900 years old by the time he dies. And you see him all creepily, and you see him all his wrinkles on his face. So that tells you that it takes a long time to master the light side, because it's a matter of commitment, it's a matter of discipline and working for others, and that's why it's so difficult.
And at the same time, we can also see in Star Wars the idea that power corrupts, because we see that Palpatine, although much younger, he gets disfigured because of the power of the dark side within him, right? While Yoda can have several hundred years, right?
Okay, well, that's something just to consider when you just watch the episode. There's a lot of things going in your mind to understand the situations. That makes it more exciting. The more you know about that, the more you analyze the characters, the more you enjoy it. Yeah. For sure. Now, talking about the Grey Jedi, what's so interesting about the Grey Jedi?
Let me start with just a reference. The Bendu believe that light and dark are simply opposite aspects of the same thing, the force itself. Two sides of the same coin. As for one to achieve one's true potential, both sides of the force need to coexist in the user. So this is a very interesting approach. It doesn't tell you, oh, you need to pick the light side or the dark side. If we remember on the episode 7, on the episode 8, Luke Skywalker tells Rey, and when she is meditating on the planet where he is, Luke Skywalker is staying, and he says, what do you feel? And she says 3 words: light, darkness, balance. So that's another interesting.
We are part of the whole.
Yeah, exactly. And let me just give the example of the gray coat. They have the gray. It has a code too, and it goes as follows: there is no dark side, nor a light side. There is only the force. I will do what I must to keep the balance. There is no good without evil, but evil must not be allowed to flourish. There is passion, yet peace. There is serenity, yet emotion. There is chaos, yet order. So
one thing cannot exist without the
it's
other.
like the Taoist believes this the yin yang, and you can have the black side. It has a white dot, and the white side has a black dot. So that's what we're saying, that this there's so much philosophy and religious philosophy within this story, and the characters, and the way how we can identify with those characters, the struggle itself that we feel on a daily basis, even in our own activities, everyday activities. We feel that, and the ones that we are deeply connected to the story, we try to analyze it using these analogies. So
Well, it is
and
to
with that, we can also revisit one of the common threads in the whole saga, that is the prophecy of the one who will bring balance back to the Force. And if we see at Anakin or at Luke, they destroyed any balance. In any case, Anakin destroyed the Jedi, and then Luke and Anakin destroyed the Sith, and that didn't bring balance to the Force. And that's why perhaps Palpatine was bound to continue living even in spirit form, because he's bringing balance somehow, or he's keeping balance, or we have to retake and create a new form of balance through Rey and his new friends.
Of course, so that is very important to understand the condition of the human nature. So nothing is easy, and sooner or later you have to remake your tools to overcome all obstacles. But it's true that the ones that go through a process, they are the ones that last longer. And I think that the whole moral is like how to survive regardless of the things that you have to overcome. Yeah, like a good preparation for whatever you have to face in life.
And there's a saying that it goes like, I don't remember exactly I'm not quoting, I'm just saying, it's just a reference that the Force is one. There's only Force, like we said on reading the Great Code, but it also has this other part, which it says that Yoda itself says that the prophecy probably was misinterpreted. And that's when the balance comes into place, because it doesn't mean that you have to kill all the Sith. It doesn't mean that all the Sith have to kill all the Jedi. It has to be a balance within the two parts, which is the same thing.
Yeah, so if one side disappears, there's no balance there.
Exactly.
So they have to find a
Another
clever,
way.
intelligent way to keep the balance.
Yep.
Okay, excellent. Now, talking about this balance and how they fight and that how they make these battles going on, talk about the lightsabers and their fighting styles.
Well, just very briefly because of time, I just want to highlight 3 of the fighting styles. I will just mention them so you, any people who don't know about the names of the fighting styles can know more about them and search in Google or the Wikipedia for them. There are 7 lightsaber fighting styles in total. They are called Shicho. The second one is Makashi. There is Sirisu, Ataru, Shen, and Dijem So. There is Niman, and there is Yuyo, also called Beipad. And I want to highlight 3 that I think they are very important. And I want to highlight first Form 3, Sirisu, that is the defense lightsaber form that was developed to protect from blaster fire, from lasers. Because the Jedi were the first and second lightsaber forms are created for lightsaber to lightsaber combat. But then if you have to fight enemies with guns, you need a more defensive stance. That is how Sirisu came into place. And it's considered the ultimate expression of non-aggressive Jedi philosophy because first of all you protect yourself and you don't take an aggressive stance. And this form is famous because of it is the favorite form of Obi-Wan. He is the overall master of Form 3.
And this fight style is the one that appears more frequently in the movie?
In the prequel trilogy, when they fight droids, and also you can see it in Obi-Wan's style over everything that Obi-Wan is in. Because he's the highest expert, he's the master of Form 3. Then I want to mention Ataru. That is the aggression form, is fast-paced, is characterized by force-assisted acrobatics. That's why Jedi can jump and make these somersaults and all these acrobatics because they are aided by the force to perform them. And Ataru is what we see in the trailer for Episode 9 that Rey is using, but there is no way Luke managed to teach Rey to use that. And this is the form that Qui-Gon Jinn and also Obi-Wan used in Episode 1, and you can see Yoda and Darth Maul using that form.
And also Mace Windu. Actually, Mace Windu is one of the top users of this style. You see his, if you remember it's canon, the Clone Wars, the series, he's battling against, I don't remember the planet right now, but he's battling hundreds of thousands of droids, and he's able to single-handed all those droids by using this acrobatics, massive use of force to deflect them. And it's Mace Windu is a character. It was very, very powerful.
And he even disarms droids with the force.
Exactly.
And speaking about Mace Windu, the last form I want to highlight is Form 7, Yuyo, or also called Beipad. That is the most violent form. Is even restricted. Its use is restricted by the Jedi Order, and the only Jedi we see using it is Mace Windu. And it's a form that is forbidden because you draw on the dark side energy of your enemy to defeat him. That's why it's very useful against Sith Lords, and that's why Mace Windu managed to defeat Palpatine in Episode 3, at least momentarily, right? And Mace Windu has a special ability within Beipad that is also called the Shatter Point. Using Shatter Point, Mace Windu can see the weakness of an opponent in order to defeat him.
So that means that depending on if you are in the dark side, you choose one of these 7 that goes with the philosophy of the dark side.
Any Jedi or Sith can use any of the 7 lightsaber forms.
Depending on the situation.
But particular Force 7, because of its aggression and its dark side, the use of the dark side is restricted by the Jedi Order. So only Mace Windu has special permission to use Vapad and to perfect it.
Oh my God. Well, I just want you to answer these 2 questions before we run out of time. Any famous quotes worth mentioning? Because, you know, this Star Wars has a lot of teachings for life. So what would be the best quotation for you in your case, Daniel?
Let me start with a misquote. That most people think that in episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, Darth Vader tells Luke, I'm your father. When he doesn't say Luke, he says, no, I am your father. And it gets misquoted all the time.
Exactly.
But it has a lot of implications, like not only referring to being the fact of being a biological father, but I mean like I am the master, I am the one that is in control, I am the one that can teach you. I mean, you can interpret this quotation in many ways.
Yeah, it's a very important one.
And
of course, the Force will be with you always.
Okay, and I think everybody is using it.
Yeah.
For many daily situations. And in your case, do you have a favorite quotation from Star Wars?
I would say this was pretty much the one. The Force will be what Obi-Wan tells Luke Skywalker while he's going through the Death Star to blow the thermal exhaust vent. It says, "Remember, the Force will be with you always," and that's the kind of a quotation that gets you through the whole thing. I mean, the Force will always be with you.
But if you analyze all the implication, what is the Force? And that means that you feel, you know, this self-confidence that if you are ready, if you are prepared, if you go through this process, then the Force will be with you.
And it's an interesting thing because it goes beyond religions. Because you can see the Force as an outside thing from your body, and also it is also inside your body. It's you, and it's also your context or your environment.
Part of your consciousness.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting. Now that you explain all this, I will, you know, like to watch every episode and see the movies one more
We'll
time.
see episode 9 in Christmas.
December.
Oh yes, when is going to be released?
It's going to be released December the 20th, 2019, just a few days before Christmas. So we're all hoping that day. We're counting days, minutes.
Like the Christmas present.
Exactly.
And then finally we will get to know what is going to be the participation of this new character that was dead.
Yeah, and we will see what happens to Palpatine, and if anyone is capable of bringing balance to the Force.
I wanted to say this real quick. Lando Calrissian goes back into this new movie. He was a friend of Han Solo. He gets in a shot with Chewbacca, and to a lot of folks that are very attached to the old movies, they liked to see this old character.
All right. Well, I hope, dear radio listeners, that you have enjoyed this show so much as we did. Talking about what's up with the Star Wars. We give a special thanks to Dr. Juan Daniel Machín.
Thank you.
And also Angel Sánchez Valdez-Hanson for your magnificent explanations about the analysis of all these characters. Juan Daniel and Angel, I don't have to ask if you are followers and real fans of Star Wars. In fact, you are. Okay, your last words, because we have to say goodbye.
Well, the Force will be with you always.